getting nothing for free.
What's up, everyone? It's your boy, The Business, coming back at you live for episode 21 of The Business. Let's be real. Tonight, I kind of first wanted to start off with giving a shout out to my nephew, Brandon, and his beautiful wife, Carolyn. They were happily married last weekend in Indianapolis. I was so excited to be a part of it, and my children were actually in the wedding, and we're so excited and honored to do so. So just wanted to give a shout out to them. Many blessings to you guys in the future, but wanted to say congratulations. Love you both. Yeah, tonight's special guest I got on tonight is going to be Blane Perry. Super excited to have this guy on. Blane and I go way back to the high school days. You know, we knew each other. He bounced around kind of the same way I bounced around, but in a different way. I was bouncing around Florida and Ohio and back and forth, and he kind of bounced around between Lorain and Amherst. And we'll talk about his whole story leading up to what he's doing now. He's got his own brewing company called Sinistral out in Virginia there. And it's, awesome company, awesome brewery. He's been doing this thing since 2017 with that location there. Started doing it, personally way back in the day. And we're going to talk about all that. We're going to bring that up, and we're going to go through his life story and kind of, let him talk about it and how he's become to where he's at now and where Sinistral is looking to go in the future. So with that being said, The Business, Let's Be Real, episode 21 begins now. Welcome back, everyone, to The Business Let's Be Real with special guest Blane Perry. Blane, how you doing tonight, man?
What's up, Tony?
How you doing, man? Good to see you, man. Super excited to have you on, buddy. Cheers.
And cheers. I got one for you.
I talked about somewhat in the intro about, how long we've personally known each other. Like I said, we bounced around and kind of ran in the same crews because of the fact that you were a wrestler back in Lorain. And, at that time, I think I was bouncing back and forth. I think I was at St. Ed's when you were at Southview wrestling. You know what I'm saying? Like, mm-hmm. I was talking with the kids about it the other day. I was like, Blane was at Southview back when I was at St. Ed's at the time. So it's like, we never wrestled on the same teams kind of thing. I was like, I've known Blane for many years and, been watching the process of what it is that you've been doing. I remember watching the process of, when you first started brewing and, mm-hmm. watching the kids growing up, online and watching them wrestling back in the day. And you know what I'm saying? Like, so it's cool to have you on, dude. It's such an honor, man. Appreciate you coming on, man.
Thanks for having me, man. I appreciate it. It's been a long time.
You and I had been chatting, I want to say, because I was doing a previous show. And I don't know, if people were able to catch that show. And we were talking about you trying to come on that one before, but that didn't work out. And then I'm able now to get you on this one. And, just wanted to kind of go through the story, of all the things that you've done to kind of lead up to where you're at now. You know what I'm saying? And that's kind of what I do with all local, business owners that are trying to do their thing and try to bring them on here and let them tell their story, man, and kind of go through what it is that they've been through to get where they are today.
Yeah, it's a sweet thing. I've watched a few of your episodes. I watched stand-ins and a couple other people's episodes. Anytime I see it on a Sunday, if I'm scrolling through some things, I'm like, oh, let me check it out. It's usually somebody I know.
That's true. Man, I appreciate it. Mm-hmm. How I started is I kind of talk about, your early days of growing up. I know that, you were born in Virginia, but then eventually made your way to Hawaii, and then on to California. Can you somewhat kind of chat about, the younger years of you and those transitions that went on in your life?
Yeah, sure. So I was a military brat. That was the only reason I ended up in Hawaii. My dad at the time when I was born, in Virginia. He was in the Air Force, and we moved out there. And I'm so bad with years. I was maybe three or two or three. I don't know how old I was, but we moved there. My parents ended up splitting up, and my mom met my stepdad, which everybody knows Red. Red's like owned the baseball card shop. Everybody in Lorain knows who Red is. And so we actually got an extended time in Hawaii, and it was really weird growing up there because you're on an island and there's nowhere to go, but I didn't know anything else, so it was fine. But when I moved to California, that's when things kind of got weird because I never saw like animals or anything like that. We saw mongoose and anything at the zoo you normally saw. But when we got there, we dropped in onto the base. And that was the first time I ever saw like a wild jackalope or whatever they are, or a wild hare running across the thing. And I saw a deer. I thought we were at a zoo. I was like, I didn't know what was going on. And then, from there over to Ohio, where my dad became senior chief charge of MEPS in Cleveland at the Federal Building. So if you went into the Navy from 1989 to probably 1993, my dad probably put you in the Navy if you were out of Ohio. So, but yeah, it was fun time. Still have some really good friends from California that I talk to often. Hawaii was a little different just because I was super young. But yeah, Ohio really was kind of where I cut my teeth and kind of grew up. But I still give love to my Cali boys out there though.
No, that's cool. I mean, and the thing was, I mean, you went through, quite a few years, I would suspect, in Cali because of the fact that by the time when you came to Lorain, what, at 14?
Mm-hmm.
That's a lot of growth. It's somewhere, you know what I'm saying? Like those 10 through, I want to say from the age of 10 through like 14 is a very detrimental time of someone's life too. Like,
Yeah. And that's where I formed some really good bonds with friends out in California. One of my buddies, I grew up with him as Ryan. His name's Nolan now, and Jamie Mello and a bunch of other guys that I was just supposed to go on a golf trip with them last week or the week before last. But I ended up not being able to. But they, they were a big part of my life and still are. There, I talk to them often. And but when I came to Ohio, that was my second 8th grade. Because I did 8th grade in California, and then when I moved, you remember I was a little shit. So when I moved from California to Ohio, my parents were like, "You're 4'11" and weigh 83 pounds. We're not putting you in high school." So they said, "Just go to junior high, meet some people, and then go into high school with them." And I was like, "Yeah, all right." But then I wouldn't, if I didn't go into 8th grade, I would have never met, like Adrian Johnson. I would have never met Wambi. I would have never met all these people that I met at Longfellow, Tim Stack and, Leon Mason, who lived down the street from me. And, just tons of people that are, still around and, people I consider, good friends.
That's cool, man.
Mm-hmm.
That's super cool. Because I tell you what, some people are chiming in. Let me post these up. Your boy Matt Davies, Blane Perry.
I wouldn't go that far.
That's awesome.
A legend at what?
Yeah, that's okay. A legend in all kinds of different facets, I'm sure. I'm sure you've done your thing in a lot of different facets.
Oh yeah.
So I guess we kind of talked about, the California stage. You talked about coming to Lorain at 14.
Mm-hmm.
Some of the people you met then at that time. Do you want to talk then about, because I know in high school, where did you start at in high school? Did you go to Amherst first, or did you go to Lorain first?
I went to Lorain High.
Okay.
So, yeah, I left Longfellow. wrestled for Beatty over there, and left there and went to Lorraine High and spent a year there. But remember back then, I guess it had been 1990. They didn't pass the levy, so all the schools canceled sports. I don't even know if it was pay to play.
That's why I went to St. Ed's. That's why I went to St. Ed's.
Right. So, the town didn't want to pay for kids to play sports. So, my parents were like, well, we lived over there on Garfield on the east side. So my parents were like, well, let's just move. And they didn't like the taxes of Amherst, but they found a way to get me to go to Amherst because we moved just, that little, that little part of Lorraine that everybody lives in that goes
by Calvary Cemetery.
Right behind the Burger King. So,
that's too funny.
Yeah, we moved over there. I guess it was after my freshman year. I guess the summer of my freshman year, we moved over to that kind of. I can't remember what they used to call it, that housing. We lived on Gettysburg, so I just called it the Gettysburg House. So I don't know what it was called. But it was behind Burger King off Cooper Foster Road.
Oh! You talking about
over there by the batting cages and all that, the ones they put up across from Taco Bell on Cooper Foster right before.
Yes.
It was back behind there.
Okay.
Yeah. Close enough, but still Lorraine.
So then at that time, then you made that move to Amherst when you left Lorraine High. How long were you at Amherst? What were the years? Do you remember the exact years that? Because you made some good contacts out there too. Those people out there have a lot of respect for you too.
Yeah, I love my Amherst people too. So I went to school there 91, 92, and 92, 93.
Okay.
Well, what would have been my sophomore and junior year.
Like a 2.5 year. Yeah.
And even a lot of drinks will do this to you over the years, but I think I went there to my senior year, and I think I even started wrestling my senior year, and they brought in a new coach, and
that's when you left and went to South.
Yeah, that's when I was like, I really like the old coach, Dale Smith.
Yeah.
He's passed away now, but he's a really sweet man. I think Dale Smith even coached at St. Ed's back in the day.
He might have. That name sounds familiar. I'm not. I don't know it.
Yeah.
There's some other folks chiming in, DJ.
What's up, buddy? Yeah, and then I got some really good friends out in the Amherst way. Like they all know Billy Solak and all those guys out there, Kalis and Carrie Cameron, and I even think Molly went to Vermilion, but a bunch of people. We kind of all spread out. It was weird when all of that went down, when they wouldn't pay for sports. I think there was maybe 4 or 5 kids that came over from to Amherst at the same time I did. I think it was Holly Zeal, Carrie Cameron, Brett Cornell, myself, and maybe even
I remember Brett Cornell going over there too with y'all.
Yeah, and then maybe Meslak.
Todd,
yeah, maybe Todd.
If Todd could play some ball. He couldn't afford to have years off and not playing high school baseball.
No, that
dude was a baller, bro.
Oh, yeah.
Todd Meslak was a baller.
Yeah, he still has one of the best swings I've ever seen.
Yeah, dude, that dude could pitch too, boy. Like I love playing with Todd Meslak, dog.
His son was great too.
I believe it. I don't doubt that in any way. It's funny that you talk about that, Levy, because I brought it up on the previous shows when I talk about the story of my life kind of thing and why I made that move. You know what I'm saying? Some people didn't, weren't taking to that move because of the fact that, the following year Safi had wrestling back, and by then I was gone, and then I came back after the season because I had left and gone to Florida by then. But yeah, that levy was huge, man, because it forced people to leave, and and Amherst was an option for me as well.
Mm-hmm.
But the things that I was doing, like I was one of those wrestlers that was trying to get to the next level kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
I was trying to use that wrestling to at least get like a college education out of it. I
Yeah.
knew there was nothing more other than, what I'm saying, like going to the Olympics and kind of
WWF. You weren't going to do that?
Well, what's funny is that after school at like 19, I did get a letter from WCW to come try out for them, and I was like, no fucking way. I'm like, I'll end up getting killed by those big guys. Like, I am way too small to be wrestling those big ass dudes, man.
That's funny. That's funny.
Yeah. So,
so you're saying you talked about the levy before?
Yeah, I brought up the levy and kind of talked about the reason that was a big part of the reason why a lot of athletes, when I went to St. Ed's, and I know you know him, Danny King left because Danny King was with you at Longfellow. Danny King and I used to commute together to St. Ed's because we were the only two Lorraine kids at the time. He was from the east side and I was from the south side. And I was like, nobody from the south had ever thought about going to St. Ed's.
Right.
Never tried to go to St. Ed's.
That was a great move for you.
Yeah.
And it was a great move for Dan, too. Dan ended up becoming a state champ at St. Ed's heavyweight. Yep. I mean, that was a wonderful move. And his dad was tried and true Lorraine. Yeah. He was my PE coach.
Terry King was probably the best athlete to ever come out of the city of Lorraine.
He still hold records at West Virginia for the most sacks in a game?
And he played both ways. He was like quarterback and linebacker. Like that was at that time when guys did that,
Yeah. I love that, man. I used to run in, all 4'11", 83 pounds of myself, and I'd run in and I'd be late for PE and I'd bust through the gym door and I'd run right into his steel belly. And I'd bounce off, and he'd go, "Flies, kitty, flies." And then he'd go, "Perry, you're a hemorrhoid. I need you to get dressed and get out there." He was a great guy, great coach, great mentor. Yeah, Terry Green's awesome.
Love Terry King, man. Much respect. Got some other people jumping in. They're just saying, "What's up, guys? HCX Live." He's another webcaster out of Houston, Texas. Actually, he gets up. Yeah, just checking you out, dude. When you decided to, or when your family decided, I guess, to make the move out of Lorraine or out of Amherst, when you made your move to Southview, you kind of ran with a different crew as far as like our wrestling crew. Like, can you talk about when that transition happened?
Yeah, so the funny thing was going to Longfellow, there were still people that I knew that didn't necessarily go to Longfellow, but all the wrestlers at Whittier, I wrestled them, right? So they knew who I was, I knew who they were. And Joel Diaz, P-Bay, Ishmael, all those guys, they were all coming up through Whittier. And I wrestled at Longfellow, and then I went to Amherst. I disappeared out of the Lorraine scene. But then my senior year, when I dropped back into Southview, I walk in, and they're like, "Oh, what's up? I remember you. You were, at Longfellow when you were this big, and now you're this big." I was like, "Yeah." So it really wasn't a hard change for me, and also moving so much when I was younger, you just gotta get in where you fit in.
Yeah, for sure.
So, but
the thing is, them people in South Lorraine are cool, man.
Like, yeah. So yeah, I don't know how many times I got stuffed full at Miss Kambaya's house. She just eat. You're so little. I was like, "Miss Kambaya, I gotta make weight. eat."
Oh man, Rico and his family, dude, they were awesome, dude.
Mm-hmm.
I still chat to Rico all the time, man. You know what I'm saying? I reach out to Rico all the time and just like be chopping it up with him. Like, he's so cool, dude.
He's a fun dude.
Yeah, he's a funny character, man.
Yeah, Rico. So we had hung out with Rico, and then a lot of the wrestling team, like who was on my team was Ish and Adrian Johnson. Adrian Johnson still comes to visit me. Like, he's been to my house 3 times already. He just drives down from Ohio and comes and hangs out.
Oh, the big fella.
Yeah,
Big fella.
yeah. And he's one of the nicest, happiest, most jolly people in the world. You know, just genuine.
Yeah,
just a genuine person. You know?
Always has been like that. Always been that way. Like never wants nothing from nobody. Doesn't want to hurt nobody.
No,
can hurt you if he wants to.
He can't.
He's the big old boy. He could hurt you bad if he wanted to. But
he could definitely hurt you.
Yeah. Super cool dude, man. Yeah, that was a crew actually back then. You know what I'm saying? That Ish Williams, Alshie Williams, Juggy Franklin, like
Juggy.
Orlando Mendoza.
Orlando Mendoza, P-Bay, and then even Jeremy Hamilton came over from Amherst the first year.
I don't know if I came back when Jeremy was there.
Yeah, Jeremy came
those
over.
Guys were there then, like at my sophomore year, but everybody was gone by then. Like they left by my junior year.
Yeah.
And I had come back after sophomore season.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm trying to think of who else. Jimmy. Oh shit! You can't forget Jimmy James.
Jimmy James, man.
Jimmy James, and there's just a good group of people.
Jimmy was
at that school.
Rico was a beast. P-Bay was good. You know what I'm saying? Like, tons of good characters. Like there was some good wrestling back then.
Yeah, you know what made, I think, that whole thing click though, and he had been there forever. Is, you know, Dan Turnus, Coach Turnus. I mean, he just knew how to talk to the kids. He knew how to, you know, get the most out of them that they might not have been willing to give, but he would get it. Yeah. And then his brother Tommy would come in, and Tommy is hard as nails with that one eye, and he'd always show it to you. They'd show you that empty socket.
Love that dude. I love Tommy Turnus, man. Tommy Turnus is the coolest, man.
Yeah, they were just good guys, and they knew wrestling. They knew how to reach kids. They knew how to teach kids. And it didn't matter what walk of life you came from. If you had talent, they were going to get it out of you.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. That's true.
So.
No, they were awesome, dude. After the Southview days, I know you then made a run. Getting out of high school, you went into the Marines, and you said, you know, when I was reading over the resume, you talked about like it wasn't a long stint in the Marines. Can you kind of talk somewhat about that part of your life, like, you know what I'm saying, when you went to be a Marine and some of the places you went to?
Yeah, I just left. You know, I had a rough time because I was kind of I was a shithead in high school. I decided that because I remember for me to go to Southview, I had to become an independent student, and I had to move to where I could go to Southview. So I moved in with one of my buddies. We had an apartment my senior year, and I had to go, and I had to have a job. I had to show I was paying rent. I had to go file with the courts. I had to file that I was an independent student because I had already turned 18. So I did everything. My parents ended up moving to Virginia. And so I was just kind of
out there on your own,
doing my thing. And I didn't do great as an independent student because I would go to the classes that I needed. And then the rest of them, I'd just go in to the office and sign out and be like, hey, deuces, I'm out. And then I would leave and come back for wrestling practice. So that really didn't help out. And unlike you, I think if I would have taken wrestling a little more seriously, I mean, I wasn't bad. I was all right. I went to state. It was fine. But I wasn't. If I would have taken it more seriously, I think I would have done a lot better. And if I had like forethought that, this could be a platform for me to go to college and me to do something. But nobody ever talked to me about college because my parents knew that there's probably a small chance in hell that I was going to college. They had one son that went to college. He's an attorney in Ohio still. My brother Brett still lives up there, but we just, they knew I was going to end up going in the military, and so when I left, there was no surprise. Went in the Marine Corps. I think August of '94. Went to boot camp down in Paris Island, did the whole thing, went through SOI, dropped to the unit, did all that, and it just, it wasn't a long time. It was fun while it lasted, and then I was glad I was out. So, but the after the Marine Corps, I ended up moving up to DC, and
that's what I was going to touch on next, was the DC move, like after the Marine Corps.
Yeah, I moved up here and I met this girl who was in her last year of law school at American University. And we ended up moving out to Portland, Oregon, and hanging out there for a little bit. And that's where the beer jumped off. And, because I hated beer when I was younger. I hated beer. I couldn't stand it.
I get it.
I couldn't stand it. I was the dude with the bottle of like schnapps or something stupid, or Mad Dog or Ripple falling in the lake.
That's the truth.
Yeah, I wasn't drinking beer.
When you made the move to DC, you said you met a young lady. You made your move to Portland. Mm-hmm. Can you talk about a little bit about that transition when you made the move to Portland, and how you really found that love for beer? Like what was the events that led up to that?
So I had we did a kind of fun thing when we were moving, because she was deciding where she was going to take the bar exam. So we laid a big thing out and kind of figured it out, and we ended up deciding on Portland. It was a long drawn out thing, but we decided on going out to Portland. She wanted to do environmental law, so that was a good place for her to go. So we went out there, and we lived out in Southeast, not too far out of the city, but far enough where it wasn't a great place. So we ended up moving up to Northwest, and the people that lived across the street from me, that guy, his name was Clay Bradley. He was the sous chef at Portland Brewing Company back in the day, and he became my fly fishing buddy. So we would go fly fishing together, and then I would go to the bar, and he would make food, and I would eat and drink and hang out with him. And then some of the brewers, I got to see, what was happening in the back, and there's a whole lot of things that were happening at one time that kind of gave me that little bump into it. And plus, the craft beer scene at that time in the, late 90s was great. Mirror Pond was still in its infancy. I think maybe only like 4 years old, 5 years old, something like that. Deschutes Brewery. Cascade Brewing Company wasn't even around then. We had just the normal big players that were out there, and then it just took off.
Crab beer, blew the fuck up, man. I'm telling you, it's crazy, and that's cool that you talk about like some of the beginning processes of it, because craft's been going around for a long time, but certain people started to take it, like you said, in the 90s. It started to, people started to really get into it, and then more people like yourself started to just want to play with it personally and see what you could do.
Don't we always just want to play with it personally?
You know what I'm saying? It's like you never know what's gonna happen at that
point. Sorry for the kids that are watching.
That's okay. Somebody put a sad face, like, oh, that was sad. Some people are chiming in still. Tim Stack popping in for you.
Oh yeah. What's up, Timmy?
Yeah, he's saying East Side.
Oh yeah.
Me, man.
Yeah, Tim lived around the corner from me.
Yeah, I missed that
Hey,
kid.
great. Finish up again.
I'm like, he and I were just FaceTiming not that long ago, like 2 weeks ago. We were chatting it up. I miss that dude. Like, talk to him as much as I can.
Yeah.
All right, let me see where I'm at. If you can talk, will you talk somewhat about how you found your passion? After finding that in Portland, you made your way back to Virginia. Now at this point, you went back to Norfolk then at this time, and but you went back with not kind of the beer set yet in your mind. It was more for trying to get a job, working with pops, doing IT. Can you talk about, I guess, kind of what made you think to take that like that next step in your life and go ahead and make that move?
Yeah, well, there's some things that happened out in Portland that, the girl I was dating at the time was a little older than me. So she was ready to settle down and have a family. And she knew that I was like 7 years younger than her. So she kind of knew. So she essentially just shoved me out of the nest and was like, you got to go do your own thing. And so I ended up back working for my dad. Went and got a couple of computer certificates, like MCSE, stuff like that back in the day, and was his network administrator. And then down in Norfolk at that time, the industry, there wasn't a lot of industry, and not putting my dad down, but he didn't pay a lot of money, especially if he paid for my school. That he paid for the school, so it's free work. So I took what he gave me and I moved up to DC and started working for OPM for a little bit, Office of Personnel and Management, and then moved over and I started what ended up being almost 16 years or 15 years at the National Association of Insurance and Financial Advisors. I worked my way from essentially running their mailroom up to their director of information services.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, and had to get in somewhere.
Well, and that process probably took you, I mean, to, like I said, reading the resume, you talked about from that beginning process to where you ended up being a director, took you about 20 years or so. You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah, I put in work. I mean, I was their mail center and stuff like that. I was managing, 5 people or 4 people at whatever it was at the time. So I had a really good gig. It was fun. I was able to, bond with the guys that I worked with, and but I needed a little bit more. So I ended up, for the company that I worked for, because I was contracted back to them, the company that I worked for wanted to expand their services that they were providing. So I told them I had these computer certifications, and they were like, well, they need help with help desk stuff. And I was like, well, that's easy. I was like, tack on, $8,000 to the contract and then give me half and I'll do that. And I ended up, working for them and taking care of all the stuff that they needed taken care of. And then I ended up getting hired by them because they liked what I was doing. They ended up having to pay the company that I was contracted to a little bit of money for me, but they got me, and then I just hung around. I was their network admin for, 4 or 5 years, and then was their director for the rest of the time that I was there. Yeah. The only reason I left is because I applied for the VP position. I was going for the vice president of information services, and I think I was qualified for it. I was well qualified for it. I knew their whole business through and through. I could take them to the next step, and I think they made a really good decision as a business because I was starting to open my brewery. Right, that job was the job that was funding me to be able to have this brewery and and keep the lights on at home and stuff like that. But I hadn't checked out yet, but they saw it coming. They saw the writing on the wall. They knew if I opened up my own business, and the CEO at the time, he knew that. He knew as soon as if you want to own your own business, which this, you got to be the boss. If you're not the boss, you're not doing anything. You're just playing in the sandbox.
Yeah.
You got to be the boss of that. You got to do it, and you got to dedicate the time to it. And that was one of the things that I learned from my dad going back to the baseball card shop. That dude grinded it out. I mean, we had a shop on East Erie. We had a shop back over on Garfield. The baseball card shops were the shit back in the day. They were fun.
Man, it was super cool to go into those shops. I remember those shops. You know what I'm saying? Like, shit, I love that shit.
Mm-hmm.
Those were awesome times, man.
Mm-hmm.
I guess when you were talking about like how you were working around things, you met a different young lady, I know, and then you had your boys,
Mm-hmm.
Jackson and Gray. You know what I'm saying, and kind of then became a family man too, plus working,
Mm-hmm.
and then I guess if you want to talk about like that transition of life, like becoming a family man, and then we'll talk somewhat more into about how you then started to culminate the passion of brewing.
Okay. Yeah. So I'd met my kid's mother. What year was that? Maybe 2003, I think, maybe 2002. And maybe 2001. I don't know, somewhere around there. And we ended up having kids. We got married, had kids. Unfortunately, that marriage didn't work out. But I got two, like you said, I got two really good boys out of it. They're sitting right here just looking at me like I'm out of my mind. But they're, Jackson and Gray, they're good boys. And they, becoming a father, which completely changes the whole ball game for everything. That's true. Boy or girl, it doesn't matter. Just being a dad. I always looked at his dad as like a social necessity. Like we're really like, where a mom. No, that's there's the piece, right? Yeah. Where we're just. We just hang around.
We're a core necessity.
Yeah. It's just a cultural necessity, a social necessity. But now it's changed, and when you really get to, hang out with your boys and, sometimes I wish I had a girl. I'm just playing.
An extra girl, an extra one to you.
Yeah, an extra one. But, after having the kids, and that's when I met my wife, and that's where kind of all the beer thing, my wife now, Stacy, that's where all the beer thing came in.
Okay.
Yeah.
When you started the brewing thing, I know you kind of started it out of the house and you were working, like, I mean, it was kind of just a hobby at first, I guess you would say, to see what was possible. Everybody kind of, thinks that they can brew beer, but when you started doing it, you started to see some good things happen, and you started to push it a little bit. Can you talk about that process?
Yeah. So I always tell people who are home brewers that come in. Well, I actually am going to back that up. I tell my friends who are home brewers this. I don't tell everybody this. When you're a home brewer and you come in and you're making beer, always understand that everybody, when they come to your house and drink your beer, they're going to tell you it's really good beer because it's free.
For sure.
When you start charging people for beer, that's
the toxicity is up there. They're like, oh yeah, that's great.
Yeah, it's great. I love this beer. It's awesome. But then you get to the point where now, I have to make a living off this, and you better make sure your product's good. Because if you're going to have somebody pay for your product, I hope they're getting what they pay for. So when we decided to move into it, I had probably a half barrel brew system in my garage, which I was making a little bit more beer than I should be making as a private citizen. And yeah, and just one day, this was kind of like the straw that broke the camel's back. There was a culmination of everything that happened for me to open Sinistral. We had been talking about stuff. We had been going through the paces, doing all this, but I had brewed a beer with a guy who wrote a couple brewing books, and he has a really good brewery up in Maryland. And he came to the house to brew a beer with me, and we made this beer, but the yeast needed to be fermented. The actual beer needed to be fermented at around 100 degrees. So I brought the fermenter in the house, and my wife comes home from work, and it's probably 98 degrees outside in Virginia with 100% humidity. And I'm sitting on the couch in my underwear with the fireplace on and this thing sitting in front of the fireplace. And she goes, "You got to get that shit out of the house. It's got to go. It's got to go." You know? And then I think I think we went to Key West that spring or summer, and that's when her and her dad and I started talking, and he was like, "Yeah, let's do something. Let's open it up. Let's see what we got." Yeah.
No, that's cool. That's cool because, you know, I was going to talk about that next. Like, I was like, when you started to make it like a little bit more than just a hobby, you know what I'm saying? It wasn't just like some little side project you were doing. What were some of those beers, you know, that you were brewing up at that time that were like hits that made you really believe like, I've got something here?
All of them. They were all great. No.
I'm like, yeah.
They're all great. No. Yeah. No. I mean, there I don't think there was any one in particular, right? Okay. So there was just a few that came and it happened, and I was like, oh, that one was really good, you know. Let me build off that one. Or this one was really good. Let me build off that one, and kept building and building and building until I finally had something that I was like, oh wow, that's good. Yeah. It took it to another level. Yeah, because it's really not very hard to make good beer. Mm-hmm. It's very hard to make great beer.
Okay.
You know, and there's a difference. Like, there's good beer. I told somebody this story the other day. I said, beer's like a taxi cab, right? Some drivers are good, some drivers are bad, right? But they all get you where you're going. Oh. That's how beer is. You can drink a bad beer, but at the end of the day, both of those take you to the same location. That's you know, just true. Forget about what you're drinking and keep going. Yeah.
No, that's true, man. Mm-hmm. I got other people popping in. Tim Stack's still popping in. Scott Hinkle's popping in saying, "What's up, kid?
What's up?"
Yeah, I'm like, but yeah, you know, I guess if you want to talk about, you know, what your guys' idea was to starting the business, because I know you started back in 2017. Mm-hmm. Can you talk about what the mindset was and what the brainchild was to really what Sinistral became like at that point in 2017?
Yeah, sure. We had, like I said, I went down to Key West and we were talking and like I said, my wife and I and my assistant brewer Celeste and her husband Ben, we had been talking, and also one of my really good friends Scott, who's our attorney. So those people that I just named, those are our partners, right? So Celeste, he's slick. Benny slick. Rick Williams, which is my wife's dad. Scott Burrell. And I have one other partner, Sean Porter. Sean came in a little later, but the main core of us, we were just all talking about how we could do something and make it kind of a brewery that has a hometown feel to it, instead of, you know, I didn't want a box, right? I didn't just want a box. I wanted something that felt like a hometown kind of place. And we really lucked into, and I still think this man named Chris Sellers, for calling me at 11:30 at night one night and telling me to get out of bed, and he had the best thing for me. And I drove down to Manassas in the middle of the night, and he's like, "This is where your brewery needs to go." And I walked in the next day and asked the guy who had his business in that building. I said, "Hey, I want to rent this place to make a brewery." And he's like, "Okay, when do you want me to have my stuff out?" So it was just kind of a culmination of everything that came together, and it came together at the right time. I had a really good team. Like I said, one of my really good friends and one of my son's godfathers, Scott, he's an attorney, and he also has an accounting degree, but we don't call him a CPA. He was helping us out through some stuff, and then Rick was really gracious to kick in some money, and then Benny Slick was a builder. So we put together a really good team. So I had an attorney, I had my wife who was an event planner, I had Celeste who was a program manager at Exxon, I had Ben who was a construction guy, and then me who made the beer. So I had 5 people, and plus her dad who was an engineer. So we had a really good team that could put together something that was really cool if we found the right place. And I think we found the right place. And I think we hopefully are continuing to make people happy. But it's one of those things where I think we did exactly what we set out to do, is make a really hometown kind of place for people to come and drink beer and enjoy themselves.
No, that's cool. That's cool.
Yeah.
That's, when businesses are first starting out, and I know a lot of people are probably asked you this question, wanted to dig into the mind of an entrepreneur and just say, what are some of the challenges maybe then at that beginning point that you may have faced that you weren't expecting?
One is you got to have really, really thick skin. Especially when it's, you're putting out something that you built, right? So if you're a carpenter and you're building furniture for people, right? If a person commissions the furniture, that's one thing. But if you're building something off your mind's eye and you're putting it out to somebody, and somebody walks by and they're like, "That's the ugliest piece of shit I've ever seen," and you spent 10 hours or 15 hours like hand planing this thing and then putting together this thing, that shit hurts, right? It has to hurt.
For sure.
But you got to let it go. You got to step back and say, I have a business and I really need to compartmentalize those things and just say, that's good. That's one opinion. That's not the whole opinion of everybody. Yeah, so it's really, that's one of the things that I could say. If you're starting out, have thick skin, especially if you're putting something out to public that means something to you. If you're an artist, if you're a carpenter, if you make beer or anything, if you're a musician, anything. If you start singing and somebody's like, they're back in the back chirping like, he sucks, Yeah. Keep singing, sing over top of that and keep going. Unless you really can't sing, then stop singing.
No, it's true. I mean, I think all artists deal with haters, and that's really what you're kind of getting at. It's, what I'm saying, when people are just being haters and really not wanting you to succeed in the line that's been chosen for you, and it's tough sometimes, people don't want to respect that because it's a part of reality. You have to be able to block it out. You got to have tough skin, like you said. It's huge. It's huge. And I mean, like I said, I appreciate you coming on and telling the people, because sometimes they need to hear different aspects from people. And like I said, entrepreneurs like yourself that have gone and dealt with things. It's tough sometimes, because people crack under that pressure. They're like, "Oh my God, people don't like me. What am I gonna do?"
Yeah.
Let's keep moving.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Don't worry about.
Bitch.
I mean, worry about what people think, but worry about the right things. Don't worry about the negative things, because when it all comes down to brass tacks, the people that talk about you negatively are the people that generally want to be you.
Yes.
The people that talk and boast you and bring you up are the people that enjoy the things that you're doing.
I just love and respect.
So yeah, it's because it's an admiration at that point. The people who just talk down or do that, they're the people that just they may not have the balls to do the shit that you did. Because it takes a lot to open up a business, to just say, you know what, fuck my six-figure job. I'm just gonna throw it up and be like, I'm gonna make, for the next 4 years, I'm gonna make $20,000 a year and see what happens.
Sure.
Wife doesn't like it, kids might not like it, but as long as we're good as a family, we stay tight as a unit. I think that's the way you need to do it.
Yes, sir. Funny is people are chiming in because they're talking about like some of the comments you're making. They're like, that is a learning proud statement. You know what I'm saying? That's the truth, man. He just, and that's kind of this format. I'm trying to bring people on, let them talk about their lives. I'm not trying to offend anyone that I have on here. I'm trying to let you tell your life, whether it's good, bad, the ugly, you know what I'm saying? Like all of the in between, dude. And I think, you know what I'm saying, you kind of gone through some things and you're really telling people, all about the real aspect of your personal life. And that's what the show's about, dude. And I appreciate you, like I said, coming on and talking about that.
Yeah, absolutely. The whole Sinistral thing wouldn't be what it is today without a really good core support, right? So nobody. I mean, I'm sure there's many of people that did things on their own, but when a person says, "Oh, I did this all on my own," somebody helped you somewhere, and you didn't give them any credit. They helped you somewhere. If it was a banker, or it was a loan officer, or it was a guy who gave you a permit for something that you needed your occupancy early, or is this guy that did this, give those people their credit that's due too, because you would be nowhere without those people that are helping you. And my people that I give all the credit in the world to, my father-in-law, my parents, my mother-in-law, my kids, my wife, my partners, Celeste, Ben, Scott, Sean Porter, and even my buddies down the street that own, Popcorn Monkey down the street, Tone and Mickey. They're great people, and they pushed us and they supported us. And our next door neighbors who own Philly Tavern, Amy and Phil Dorn, they came in and they did stuff for us. Pretty much the whole town, came together and supported what we were doing. And I think that's where I get, my skin doesn't get so thick. I get a little mushy. When you have all those people coming together to help you in something like that, and they, you got to give credit where credit is due, because nobody makes it to where they are just alone.
Yeah. All local business owners, man. That's what's huge. That's what's huge. That's what we're trying to promote, is local business owners trying to, continue what they're doing, man. You're doing it right, dude. And you know what's up. From the time in 2017, I think I reached out to you for some swag, dude. And you to me right away. You were like, "T, you want some swag?" I said, and I'm walking around the beaches of,
They're like, "Who the hell is Sinistral?"
I'm like walking around. Oh yeah, my buddy got this brewery up in Virginia. Go check it out, man. They're like, okay, well, I'm gonna go check it out. Like, for real, like, and it was cool, man. I appreciate it.
But that's what I'm talking about. That's the exact thing I'm talking about. Just me doing that one little thing, sending it to you, and now you spread it to 15 people. It's.
My wife busted out the cap today. She had the Sinistral cap on today when we went to the ball fields. She was like, "Should I pull it out? Should I pull it out?" And I was like, "Yeah, rock that thing." And she had her Sinistral cap on, dude.
Yeah. It's just it's one of those things. We you just got to always make sure and thank the people that are doing you right, and also thank the people that are doing you wrong too, because they make you stronger.
They're pushing you.
They push me. They push me.
That's
push
true,
me.
man.
Yeah.
More people chiming in. Bart again. To clarify, I wanted to give you a shout out for focusing on the positive, not the negative. We all love to showcase all the real people making the difference. Oh, no, I appreciate that.
Nice. That's real nice.
Yeah, that's cool.
Real nice. You are, and this. I knew you have me on here to spotlight me, but come on, T. You're doing a cool thing too, man. And you're doing your thing. You got kids in baseball. You got a wife. You got a family. You got everything that's happening. I mean, you get props too.
I appreciate that.
Yeah,
no, I mean, I come on here though, and the main focus, like I said, is about the locals. It just happens to be that the locals a lot of times are connected to me in some way. You are connected to me through the Lorraine, like, you know what I'm saying? And like I said, I've watched the process of what you've gone through to get to this point. I thought it was super cool. Like I said, I've been watching the boys since they were young and seeing them online and watching them, like I said, wrestle and all that stuff back in the day.
Yeah.
And the whole process of the brewery, man. And so it was like, I wanted to, of course, spotlight that. I mean, and that's what this show's about. Like, I was so excited to get you to come on and kind of chat about that, dude, and just, bring up the life of the brewery and talk about Sinistral and,
Yeah, and I apologize it's taken so long. I knew you tried to nail me down like 3 times, and every time something was coming up, and then when you hit me up the last time, I was like, ooh, I don't have anything May 2nd. And then I was like, oh shit, I'm going fishing on May 2nd. I got to be home by this time.
Yeah, cool, man. I appreciate it.
Yeah, I took Gray out today for his first time going fly fishing. We had a really good day on the river.
That's cool, man.
Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah. That's what it's about, man.
Wow.
Like you said, I'm doing the coaching thing. I mean, I got the Little Leagues, got the county tournaments coming up here soon, and then we got All-Stars in the next month. And I mean, and that's my life, man. I love it. I love, you know what I'm saying, doing my thing and being around my family. And I know you do too, dude.
Yeah.
That's what I'm trying to showcase with all you guys. Like, I want to showcase everybody in their own light and talk about that business. Go ahead.
So I wanted to make sure and tell you, I was in Key West. Hey, babe, when were we in Key West? 1 month ago.
Okay.
And we were at the southernmost hotel, and we were in the pool, and these 3 ladies are around us, and they're probably in their late 50s, early 60s. And we're sitting there, and some guy walks by with an Ohio State shirt on. I'm like, OH. He's like, IO. And they turn to me, and they're like, you're from Ohio? And I was like, yeah. And they're like, where? I was like, you probably won't know it. And they're like, no, where are you from? I was like, Cleveland area. They're like, nobody's really from Cleveland. Where are you from? What suburb do you live in Cleveland?
Yeah, what's the suburb?
Like, yeah, and I was like, Lorraine Amherst area. And they're like, we're from I think she said one was from Westlake, one was from Avon Lake, and one was from Avon. And I was like, oh, my brother lives in Avon. So we get to talking, and all their kids went to St. Ed's, and they know you.
Oh, no way.
One of their sons played baseball with you.
Oh, wow.
I can't remember her name. I was like, shit. I was thinking on the way home. I was trying to remember this lady's name, and I cannot remember her name. And she knows you. She's like,
if her kids went to St. Ed's and he played baseball with me, you're talking about Louis Kumba. I know exactly who you're talking about, because Louis Kumba is the only one who played ball with me that went to St. Ed's.
Then that must be my short lady, kind of darkish hair. Yeah. There you go. I met his mom.
Out in Key West, chatting it up about just saying OH and IO.
Yeah, just saying OHIO. And there was like 40 people at that, just sitting in that thing that was all Buckeye fans. It was funny.
Oh, that's super
Yeah.
cool. Let me see. What I'm going to have you do now is kind of talk about. I'm going to put you solo screen. I'm going to have you talk about Sinistral pre-COVID, if you don't mind. Like, if you don't mind talking about the 2017 to 2019, early 2020 era, what you guys were doing, how business was going. I know you guys were having all kinds of like, musical acts coming in, like solo acts, and you know what I'm saying, like all kinds of cool shit going on at Sinistral at that time. I'm gonna put you solo, let you chat about that, and just to kind of let people know what was going on pre-COVID, and then we'll chop it up about the COVID era.
Okay. Yeah. You're still here though, right? I can still hear you talking, Tony.
You can say when we're talking,
Oh,
but I muted myself. I muted myself so that you can just talk.
I didn't want you to just leave me alone like I'm just some pundit over here. Yeah, so 2017 we opened. 2017 we had a great year. We had a sort of a great year. We had a company that was supposed to get our tanks in. They went bankrupt. They didn't go bankrupt. They just took $80,000 from us and then went bankrupt. So that was a tough thing to be able to get open, especially when you lose 80 grand of your investment right off the bat. Then 2018, we saw a nice little upturn of business. 2019, we doubled business, and everything was just marching on and on and on. And then 2020 hit, and I think my wife and I were again in Key West, I believe in late February of 2020. And we went to this little bar, and we were sitting with this family, and the girl actually worked for the CDC. And she was like, "Oh yeah, we're going to have this huge pandemic. It's coming across, it's coming from here, it's doing this, it's doing that." And we get back, and by early March, they're shutting everything down. I think St. Patrick's Day, they hadn't fully announced the full shutdown yet. So we still got to do a small little St. Patrick's Day thing. And then after that, business completely went south. We had to pivot. All we do is taproom sales. We don't really can beer. We don't really. We can beer on demand, but we don't generally professionally can beer. That you can take home and it can stay on the shelf for 2, 3, 4 weeks, a month. It's we can the beer, and we would hope you would go home and drink it in the next 2-3 days. So we had to pivot. We had to spend a bunch of money on cans, a bunch of money on just extra ancillary things to make sure that what we were doing was still going to be able to pay our bills. And it took a toll. The federal government came through a few times and helped us out, which we're very grateful for. We ended up, having a significant loss in 2020. 2021, we're starting to see a little bit of a upturn, especially with the weather getting nicer, people getting vaccinations, things like people feeling more comfortable coming out of their house. But we have a really big outdoor space at our place. I think we have 8,500 total square feet, and 6,500 of it, or maybe even 6,000 of it, is outside. So we have a really big outdoor area where people can sit and they can space out. So we were kind of one of those places that people came even during COVID because they could sit outside. They didn't have to come in. We have little roll-up windows that people could walk up to and get a beer from there. So it helped out. And plus we had this insane, really, really supportive, insanely supportive community that came out and, supported us. and wanted us to stay around and made sure that we made it through the whole COVID thing. And we're not through it. I don't think we're going to be through it for, I would say, at least another 8 months. There's still going to be things. I mean, it could be 8 months. It could be 2 years. I don't know. Who knows? But as long as we keep doing the right things and keep making sure that people are safe and healthy, you know, we'll see what happens. It's tough. It's tough for every business right now. I feel for a lot of, you know, smaller businesses that have, you know, just maybe, you know, woodworkings or this, or, you know, or, I mean, even barber shops where people are they can't go in and just sit. They have to make appointments now. When that's the reason. I know it doesn't look like it, but I used to go to a barber, and I'd like to go and sit down, and because a lot of my friends were in there, and you would sit down and talk to them, and you would hang out, and that was kind of one of those little things that was enjoyable. You went and sat down, you talked to the barber, you talked to your friends, you got your hair cut, gave everybody some dat, and then you walked out. You couldn't do that anymore. So a lot of those things that we took for granted, those were the things that people were most pissed off about. So I guess it's a little, you know, kind of a punch in the gut for everybody. Make sure that you live life to the fullest, and make sure that the things that are the small things that you take for granted, you make sure that you give it its due, instead of, you know, thinking that, oh, this will always be here, or I'll always be able to do this. You know, nothing's promised. So, but with 2021, we're hoping that, you know, things will start to turn around, and we'll see what happens. We'll see what the future brings.
No, that's awesome, man. You know, you pretty much have talked about all the kind of things I want to talk about. I know you got, you know, back when you guys were able to have a lot of people in house, I know you were playing some music too, and singing and having fun, and
Don't flatter me.
you were singing and having fun and all that kind of good stuff too. You know, it's like, and that's, I mean, I'll tell you what, like, that's all with the fun of it. I'll tell you what, I know people were attracted, I'm sure, to come to the brewery, you know, see one of the owners, the brewmaster, you know, getting on stage and singing for them, and you know, playing the guitar.
And that was one of the really the cool things that's starting to happen now. A lot of them our musicians are coming back, right? Because they weren't able to do that. And that was another huge industry that took a hit. So because we have some musicians that come in and play at our place, that's what they do for a living.
The live gigs.
They played 7 days a week or 6 days a week, and they couldn't play. So they pivoted, they adapted, they started doing live streams from their house, which I thought was
teaching, lots of teaching.
Teaching and playing. I thought that was great.
I had a friend of mine who she's a musician, and she's got a whole slew of live giggers and teachers, and you know, she talked to me about how it was such a crazy transition at that time to move over to virtual because of the fact that they had to, you know, and you know, I felt for the live giggers, because that was tough, man. I mean, that's life, and you know, and it helped draw business for you guys too, because you know, certain nights, certain people would be at the bars to see their certain artists performing, because they wanted to be there when they were jamming and dance and sing to them too, and have a good time. And it's totally changed. Can you talk somewhat about maybe some of the events that Sinistral's having going on right now before I get into like you putting a good promotion on Sinistral?
Yeah, sure. So one of the cool things that Manassas did was, babe, am I right in saying that Manassas was the first people in Virginia to do it?
Yes.
Okay, I am right. Okay, so there was legislation that was passed in Virginia this year or last year, and it said in a confined area, such as a city that has a defined area like common downtown space, like a main street area, like they're like a city center area.
That's your downtown.
Yeah, you're downtown. You can walk around with it's open container. So you could come into my bar as long as the cup is logoed. You can go out in the street. You can drink beer in the street. You can walk around town. You can't take your beer into another place. You have to finish it. But it gave the people the option of, walking around town and having a good time. And it also helped us during COVID because when they did those things, people could move out and there's more space for people to spread out. So it was really cool. So they called it the Sip and Shop. I wanted them to call it Sip and Stroll, but they were like, "Oh, we want people to shop around town." I was like, "They can't bring their beer into the place."
No.
But they have that going on. I think through October. I'm getting all my answers out here.
I know you are.
Yeah,
I see you turning to silent. October, mama.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Because that's as soon as I get off here, it's going to be like, no, it was November and this is this, and then I'll get in trouble. So I'm verifying.
I know you are.
Yeah. So I think it's through October, and every Friday and Saturday, you can walk around town with your beer. They finally allowed us to push bands back out into the streets. So they closed down our street. They closed down Main Street. We put a band at one end of the street and pack it with people and let them watch the music. They come in and get beers and hang out. We've got some really good food trucks that come through. One of our good friends, Robbie Puccio's of Puccio's Pizza. He's one of the best brick oven pizzas I've ever had. Little Lady Food Truck, Glinda and her husband, Mo. They're awesome. They make great sandwiches, the Mowich and the salmon with rice, the saffron. We have some really good food trucks that come through. But yeah, it's just kind of ever evolving thing that, you can find. Here's the easiest answer. You can find everything on right here, what my wife wrote out for me so I don't forget it.
I'm about to put you full screen.
No.
Like I said, I got on there, your Instagram and Facebook, and I got your website.
I said, what's our Facebook tag and what's our Instagram tag? And she just wrote Facebook. It's Sinistral Brewing Company. I said, what's our Instagram? Sinistral Brewing Company. Yeah.
I got both of them. Both of the logos are side by side. Did you look at your solo screen? Your solo screen at the top of it has Facebook, Instagram, Sinistral Brewing Company. It has your Sinistral Brewing Company, the logo that's behind us right now. That's the background to us. It has that, and then it says your website that says sinistralbrewingcompany.com. So yeah, definitely.
That's why you're the host.
I definitely wanted to do that for you so that you can give it that shout out in the time that I'm going to give you right now. I'm going to let you shout out Sinistral. I want you to tell people where they can find you guys and how they can get a hold of you, dude.
All right. So we're Sinistral Brewing Company. You can find us in Old Town Manassas, 9419 Main Street, Manassas, Virginia. Any of my Ohio peeps want to come down, let me know if you're coming down. You're always welcome. And then anybody far and near who's watching this, come on in and see us. We make some good beer. We also have some really other good breweries around our town as well that you can visit. Public House, Bad Wolf, Tucked Away. Who's the other one over there? Heritage Brewing Company. We have, there's a lot of breweries that right around us, and then we also have Eavesdrop, and we have right down the street is our good friends Waters Inn Brewing Company. I'm sad one of my buddies, Josh, is moving away. You hear me, Josh? I'm not happy. So we have a lot of things to do. It's a good place to come and hang out. You should make it a priority. How about that?
That's perfect, man. That's exactly what I want to hear, dude. Like, I'm happy for you, dude. I'm gonna do one little bit with you now. It's kind of funny. I do it with everybody I have on. Kind of ask them a couple questions. It's called Pick Your Poison.
All right.
I give you like 3 either ors, and really just kind of trying to be funny. I'm gonna give you those 3 either ors and kind of have you maybe elaborate on those answers if you don't mind.
Right.
The first one is gonna be wrestling or music.
Obviously wrestling.
Get him, Gray. Don't stop. Get him.
Yeah. They're trying to kill me.
Jumped on you. Where Gray?
Yeah. Damn boy, back up.
Yeah,
I can't do anything in this house with these boys here, man.
Wrestling it is.
So it's wrestling, yeah.
Okay.
What was the second one besides wrestling?
It was wrestling or music.
Ooh. How about wrestling to music?
Well, you know what's funny is that all these questions are kind of just open and funny, and I know the last one's gonna kind of go inside with the same thing. My next one is for you is Ohio or Virginia. OH.
OH. I mean, I always have to give love back to OH. I have to.
That was a different time of your life, man.
Different time. Yeah. But now I love my Virginia peeps too.
Nah, much respect to them as well. My last question for you, like I said, it's probably gonna coincide. But I know you were doing both of them today, and one was fly fishing or beer.
Ooh, those go hand in hand, son. You can't split those up. You're fly fishing, and you just sit down on the bank and drink a beer.
Got to be.
Yeah, there it is. Man, Tony, it's good talking to you, brother.
I appreciate you, man.
I appreciate it. Yeah,
for sure. Like,
now I'm
glad you were able to put some time aside for me.
Yeah, now I'm sad I didn't do this 3 months ago.
Man, appreciate you, Blane. Everyone, Blane Perry. Appreciate the guy coming on tonight. With that being out, I'm gonna put you backstage, dude. I'm gonna do my little outro, and we'll chat after the show, man. You know what's up.
We'll see you, bud.
I appreciate you, Blane. Yeah, man, that was Blane Perry. Super excited to have him on. Like he said, we have been trying, and like I said in the previous show, I wanted to have him on. We had talked about it on this show early, and things just didn't work out. And luckily enough, I was able to get him on tonight. Had a great time with the guy. Really, really enjoyed that time. Talking about life, talking about him. You know what I'm saying? All the transitions he went through, and what it is that made him into what he is today. He's a brewmaster. He's a brewmaster running Sinistral, and it's an awesome little place. And Gainesville, like they living out there in Gainesville, Virginia, and if you get a chance to go out there and check out, in Manassas and check out Sinistral, do so. I promise it's gonna be worth your time. So I want to give one shout out to next weekend, May 8th, from 11 a.m. to 5 p.m. The games at Sarah Vandenberg Tennis and Wellness Center is going to be hosted out there. Ferris Montgomery and Lock It Up Tennis are really going to be out there doing their thing. Super happy to see him next weekend. I'm gonna try to get out there. I want to bring some guys, like I said, to come compete in the games event, and excited for it. And if you get a chance, go out there. Zephyr Hills, like I said, Sarah Vandenberg Tennis and Wellness Center coming up next Saturday, May 8th. Like I said, I'm gonna bring some boys out there, and we're gonna see how many other competitors are out there, how many other athletes are trying to roll. Super, like I said, excited for having Blane Perry on. I appreciate him so much. It was fun having him on, chatting, and we're laughing and going at it, and talking about times and going through some things. And, and that's what this is about. I'm trying to, spotlight all these local businesses that are trying to come up and trying to do their thing. That's my niche right now, and I'll be able to talk hopefully to all kinds of different facets of things. I've done artists. I've done, like I said, a brewmaster tonight, who's an artist in his own right. You know what I'm saying? And, super excited to do so. Blane, much respect. So honored to have you on, dude. But if you ever want to check us out, the business, Let's Be Real, is on YouTube. Please go on. I'm on Instagram as the business Let's Be Real, and you can find me on Facebook also as well as Tony Gonzalez. I want to give my final quote, and I'm going to wrap it up for the night. The final quote is, you can try or you can try harder. A lot of people will go around and they just go through the motions day by day, but there's a certain few people of us that are trying to try harder, and those are the ones that are trying to push to have their own thing. Keep doing what you're doing. Stay up. I appreciate you all. But with that being said, the business, Let's Be Real, over, out.